Totally, totally. Oh,
Hi, we are live. My name is Dr. Sharnael Wolverton Sehan. So excited today. We have slamming doors, apparently. Sorry about that. Um, we have a return guest. Craig and I are hosting today, and so excited to have Dan back with us to talk about crystals and the technology of crystals and how it works. And we were kind of talking a little bit behind the scenes about some of the stats and documents that he has. I don't know how much he's going to go into that, but for those of you who missed our last um, interview with him, please go to swiftfire.org and catch that, because there's a lot of foundational things that we talked about to lead up to this conversation. That's why we had a part two. So everyone knows that I'm like fascinated with crystals and have my crystal card deck. And um, Craig, actually, him and his wife have a crystal store online, so he's definitely all about it too.
Yep.
And I didn't know that Dan was connected to Dr. Marcel, which that's a whole, I mean, it was after or maybe during the interview when I realized that someone had been trying to connect me to Dan like back in August for a roundtable that I couldn't make. And so I went back to, because I know they posted like a video of something to do with Marcel then. And after this conversation that we had, I went back to try to find that video. And then when I did, it said Dan Willis. And I was like, and I even said in the thing, oh, who's Dan Willis? And they described, you and explained who you were. And I was just like, oh my God, that's the same Dan Willis. So I was like, okay, circle back here. And now here we are. So if you would like Craig to say anything before we get started, and then I'm going to have Dan share a little bit about his background and how he got into this. And yeah, anything to say, Craig?
I know, just like I say, we've been talking backstage, as it were. I remember last time, Dan, we were talking, and obviously as Sharnael said, my wife and I run a crystal shop, an online crystal shop, crystalfalls.co.uk, if anybody wants to go and check us out. It's amazing how many people contact us saying, I don't know what it is about crystals, but I'm drawn to it. I don't know why. I'm not spiritual. I'm not anything. I just see them and I'm pulled towards them. I'm attracted to them. And obviously we just help them along and just be like, yeah, well, obviously they're the ones that they're communicating with you, I just think the whole study of it and the science of it is mind-blowingly fascinating, and it's something that mainstream science really neglects, and I think there's a reason for that, which we may well go into. But like Sharnael said, why don't we just sort of start with how you got into this and where you sort of got your knowledge from.
Well, I'm going to add one more thing before you go. Is you had mentioned an encounter, and I had a similar encounter at a different time. I think yours was earlier than mine, but mine was 2008 or 9. I'd have to look at when I wrote it all down, but that literally changed my entire job mission on the planet when I had this encounter. And a book came out of it. And I was forever changed and obsessed with sacred geometry, aromatherapy and essential oils, like herbs and plant medicine and crystals. And I had never really, I loved rocks as a kid and collected marbles and fascinated with that, but not understanding the science of it, and was actually sort of programmed to think that was terrible. But then I started looking at all the science of it, and I'm like, this is science. And I'm a data person. I'm not one of those people that just like, if someone tells you something, then I'm like, okay, well, since you said that, sure. I like to look up things on my own and research things on my own. And I didn't find Marcel at the time, so I didn't have that piece. But I had my encounter that had happened, which talked about frequency and even crystals. And so anyway, so it sounds like you had something similar to that. But so give us a little bit on that too, if you don't mind.
Yeah, that's good that you had your own personal experience, and then later you find information that substantiates it.
It's so
And it's my journey on this started a long time ago. The year was 1977, and I did not know what I didn't have any knowledge of sacred geometry. I didn't know what platonic solids were, where one geometry fits into the other and it goes, into multiple geometries. I had no idea. I didn't, like a normal high school kid that would have geometry knowledge. I had none of that. And so how this journey started back then was I was going out with this lady who owned a metaphysical bookstore, and she wanted to do a past life regression on me. But it didn't turn into a past life regression. I had millions of volts going through my hands and my feet. It was a Kundalini opening experience, and lucidly I saw this being, and the energy was intense, to put it mildly. I mean, but it was loving. I mean, this being had incredible love coming from its eyes. Yeah, I didn't even know what a gray was at the time, but I know there's a lot of different species out there, obviously. The being had a huge cranium and very large eyes. And I was observing the being projected in space, a sphere. And as I observed the sphere, and she's very intuitive. She's saying he's teaching you something, The first thing I see is it looks like a 6-pointed star at the time. Later I understand it's like a star tetrahedron, like on the cover of your book, Dr. Sharnael. Right. And then another geometry fit into exactly, and another geometry fit into that one, another one into that one, another one fit into that one, and it kept on going into infinity, and then it turned back into the sphere. And I didn't know if this was a metaphor teaching or if this was actually based on science, what the being was conveying to me. But what the essence was that as we're evolving, each one of us in actuality are a sphere with all the harmonics of all the vibrations. And at any particular level that we are conscious of the subharmonics and everything, and geometry of that, but not of the higher levels. And that through love, we essentially transition from one higher geometry into the next until we encompass the entire sphere. Now, this was something that left a burning desire in me to try to find. This is 1977. There wasn't a whole lot of. I had to order books from England. Every book I could on the subject, and I started like, oh my God, this is how geometry fits, with the platonic solids. And I started grabbing every book I could on the subject because it somehow held a key to understanding the matrix that we are in. In searching every source I could on the information, it's when you have this burning desire, you have this hunger, and you keep searching until you try to find an answer. Yeah. And I heard that about the work of Dr. Marcel Vogel. At the time, he was still working for IBM. Dr. Vogel, he was 27 years at IBM, hundreds of patents. He invented the magnetic coating on hard drives that use in computers, the red and blue phosphors on color television, liquid crystals for display. I mean, man was a creative genius. He had an experience with. He had to teach a course of creativity to all these engineers because there are all these left brain engineers. He had 30 left brain engineers he had to teach creativity to. And so he saw this article about plant communication by Cleve Baxter, a polygraph expert at the CIA. And he initially thought it was garbage and threw it in the trash. And he thought, no, this would be great for creativity for the engineers. And so he set up a split leaf philodendron and hooked up a script chart recorder. he burned the plant leaf, and this chart squiggled. And the moment the thought formed in his mind to burn it, it squiggled. And he said that squiggle changed his life. He had the kind of mind that once he had a question, he would relentlessly pursue it until he got the answer, and he would get things in dreams and so forth. So to make a long story short, and it goes into quite a long story, he was able to do it from 7 miles away. Then he went all the way to Prague, Czechoslovakia, and was able, with his colleague in the laboratory, psychically tune into the plant and make it squiggle. He was talking on plant communication to a Church of Religious Science, and this woman gave him, he said, I've been led to give you this crystal. And he thought, oh, this is a woo-woo thing, and so he accepted graciously. And what he found is that, this is very interesting. What he found was, when he was working with the plant, he found that in studying pranayama yoga, the science of breath, he found that when he pulsed his breath, through the nostrils with the intent, he got a much greater reaction on the script chart recorder. So he had a colleague at IBM that had a back injury, and so he went to help him with a crystal, and it healed him, from a back injury. And so he was thinking, how can I? He was wanting to make it into a more precise science. How can we take the regular crystal as it grows in nature? That how can we take this and make it into an instrument that could cohere the energies of mind in such a way as to make it more effective. And so as he pursued this, he got a dream, and in the middle of the night he got this image of a dipyramidal, like the tree of life, configuration, where you have a pyramid on the top, a pyramid in with the tree of life. In the Kabbalah, you have the unmanifest from the Godhead, whatever, and then coming down into manifestation into the earthly realm. And the first design was a crystal like this, with just 4 sides. And the concept was in a laser. He always used to say to me, these sciences that we're experimenting with and researching are akin to those that we know in the normal world of physics. And so with a laser, if you have a laser, you have 2 mirrors. One's 100% reflective, the other one's 99% reflective. And what happens is they excite the like a ruby crystal in the middle with a photon. It starts it oscillating, and the mirrors are such that the wavelength, as the energy reflects back and forth between the 2 mirrors, it builds and builds, and it becomes extremely powerful, so that 1% that comes out the one mirror is strong enough to cut through steel. So wow. It's because of the power of cohering, just like our thoughts. When we think kind of scattered thoughts, not very powerful, but if we're able to align our mind with a very coherent thought, we can be like the masters in the Far East, manifest an apple on our hand or whatever, with that, because we're, as he used to say, we're made in the image and likeness of God, therefore we create. We're like a fractal pattern of that great divine pattern. So I heard of his work, and I drove up from San Diego up to San Jose, his home, in the middle of a storm. And there was like 100-mile-per-hour winds going off the Golden Gate Bridge. Knocked on the door at night. he opened the door, let me in, and I said, I've heard about your work. I'm fascinated. I want to find out more about what you're doing. And
You just like showed up, or did he know you were coming?
I contacted him first.
Okay, I was gonna say, wow, that's great. Okay.
Curiously, he said the first thing he said is like, "You're from another planet, aren't you?" I said, "I don't know about that, but I'm fascinated about your work."
You might be.
So I sat down. There was he was working with 24 medical doctors, and one of them was sitting on the couch, and so I sat down next to the doctor, and he turned out the lights for half an hour, it seemed like, and he played this beautiful classical music. A little eccentric, and so a knock came on the door, and this woman heard about him helping with healing, because these doctors were having incredible success with the technique that he was using with the crystal and the breath. And so her daughter, who she brought, had a tumor that was sticking out about a half-inch or so out of her ankle. And Marcel used the technique that he had developed, over some time. And in front of the doctor and I, the tumor dematerialized in front of our eyes, which made a huge impression on me, because I understood that this man had tapped into a science that is understanding the fabric of reality to be able to go in at a higher etheric level, if you will, a formative level that forms our 3D world, and be able to, when you change it there, it's like you pull the rug out from under the 3D world, and that manifestation, it disappeared. So he asked me to, at the time I was working for many years at the Naval Electronic Engineering Center in San Diego, and I had access to a lot of equipment. IBM gave him the electron microscope, and he reassembled the whole thing and set up a whole laboratory, and I helped procure some of the laboratory measuring equipment, like spectrophotometers and stuff like that. And I even drove all the way to Arkansas and got a huge amount of crystals which I delivered to him, which we're using for cutting for these doctors. And he made this one as a gift to me, which I always cherish. And he trained me on how to use it and the techniques. And on the way home, getting on the plane, the fellow next to me was a football player that just had surgery on his knee, and he was like holding it in pain. And I'm thinking, I've been given a gift, and you got to use it. So I said to him, "Look, I'm not a doctor. I'm kind of an experimental scientist, and if you'd like, we could try some unusual procedures on see what we can help you with your knee." And so I did the procedure, the mark that Marcel showed me. And when he got off the plane, he was pointing from his parents, and he said, "That guy, he fixed my leg." But I didn't fix his leg. I facilitated him in healing himself. And that's how we do the crystal healing, is we facilitate an individual in, because you don't go against the will of a person. A person is the person responsible for healing themselves. And when you can assist and go into a higher formative dimensional level, etheric, whatever you want to call it, and you can pull that distortion out, the healing happens instantaneous. It's like it's like magic. So there's a lot of science behind all this. A lot of measurements were made, besides a lot of experience and the use of crystals, and with working with the doctors, and incredible stories, and lots of, I used a crystal many times on different situations, and yeah, I'm always amazed and grateful. And when you do that, you have to have zero attachment to the outcome. You basically just put yourself at service in love for another person. And yeah, one person talking there about their mom. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, awesome, Beth. Yeah.
So, yes, go ahead.
Well, I was introduced to Vogel maybe 2 years ago. I never watched anything that he had. I say introduced. I didn't know that he was a person. Someone had just told me about a certain cut called Vogel crystals, but I didn't know. I should have probably looked into it more, but I knew that it was a type of cut. I didn't know why it was. I didn't know it was named after a person who had any of this technology down or his background. But someone had a sapphire. It's this. It's the Star of David, but it's also.
All right. Yes, and Marcel developed that.
Yes, and so I was in North Carolina, and someone had one on that was a sapphire version, and I don't know if it was real sapphire, but it was the color blue anyway. And she told me where she got it in Shasta, and I went home and was like obsessed, and didn't get one until maybe, I don't know, it was a couple years before I actually got one. I went there and purchased this, and then I have a green and emerald one too. I did not get any of the ones. I didn't understand still. No one explained to me at the store the background of Vogel or why or any explanation. I just felt drawn to this one and the green one. I thought I was going there for the sapphire one because I'm always really drawn to blues, and especially sapphire. That's my birthstone. But when I did finally watch a couple videos after our last interview with you, little short 13-minute kind of spreads, his cuts that I saw were all like the one you have in your hand. So my question
That's a healing crystal, different. The crystal that you put here in this area is in the thymus area, which connects to the energetic system of your body.
So explain. This cut can do something to just wearing it around your neck. It does something to the thymus. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, you wear it right here, which is this area right here, a couple of inches down from right there. It acts, it's kind of like a energetic balance, protection type of thing. My experience is much more with the crystals, which, he started with a 4-sided, and then moved on to more sides. This is like an 8-sided crystal, and then they kept developing more with, like, this is a 16-sided.
So more sides is better, or is it just different?
It's different. It affects when crystals grow. The energy vortexes through them. It spirals, and it's very, with a Vogel cut crystal. There's crystals Vogel knockoffs out there. The thing that's essential is that the crystal is cut along the C-axis, or the growth axis of the crystal, so that the tips on both sides are aligned with that growth axis, because the energy spirals down, and the number of facets that are around, 4-sided, 8-sided, 24-sided, I've seen them up to 144 sides, but in the laboratory we haven't seen much greater distance of an effect going after so many sides. But the 4-sided is more physical, 6-sided is more emotional level, 8-sided is more on another higher level, And as you go into higher levels, it's an increase in the frequency of the spin, but they all work. So it's not like you have to have one particular site to work on one particular thing. The interesting thing is the measurements that were done in the laboratory with water. There's this interrelationship. The entire universe is built on this tetrahedral fractal geometry, and quartz crystals have this tetrahedral hexagonal geometry, just like water. And they're the complex holographic patterns of the energy of love. There's this matrix that we are in, that water, crystals, and the energy of love work together. And that's why, in the well-known work of Dr. Emoto, when people have feelings of love, gratitude versus hate and fear, the love allows the energies related with love and those kind of feelings allow, because the structure of the matrix is this precise resonant geometric pattern that cannot take formation of dissonant energies such as hate, fear, jealousy, all those energies. They do not allow them to take form. Therefore, it does not, if you don't have love behind what you're doing, it doesn't have the transcending ability in order to reach into the higher dimensions that form the lower dimensions.
Wow.
Dude.
Rocking my world.
so it can't take on the negative energy with the quartz. Is that what you're saying? Is it so? It's sort of. I'm sorry, I am like blown away. But so like the black tourmaline won't take on negative energy. Well, it actually will. It pulls it out. But so I know with quartz there's an electric piezo effect that's higher than any of the others.
Yeah.
And it has the ability, has the ability to record and radiate its own signature code, which all of them can do their own signature code, and all of them will stabilize the field just by coming into your field. So if your field is 22 radius and it's 10 feet away, and your field still, it'll immediately change your field. In my testing, just by sitting next to your bed or on your bed or on your body, I've seen it change the whole field. But you're saying that it cannot take on hate? Is that? I mean, I want to be clear, because that is like news to me.
It's when you imagine everything's resonance. And so when you have, like with the clear quartz crystal, it is like unlike other types of stones that each have their own unique qualities and properties of it. The clear quartz is universal. If you just like water, there's a similarity with quartz and water. In fact, the molecular structure of water is harmonics of the molecular structure of quartz. And there is this golden mean ratio, 1.618, the one ratio that goes into infinity, which all life is based upon, which if you look at the Great Pyramid in Egypt, in Giza, it's at a 51 minute, basically very, very close to 52 degrees. So we just say 52 degrees to make it simple. Angle, which is the exact angle of every single quartz crystal.
Wow.
Every facet on a quartz crystal is exactly at 52 degrees. Why is that significant? Because if you measure that on the Great Pyramid, it's the ratio. I have to show a diagram, but the ratio between you go to the middle of the pyramid to the top, it's exactly the golden mean ratio, which resonates. And that universal resonance is also connected with water, because water is at 26 degrees and 104.5 degrees, which is twice 52 and half of 52. And so there's this fractal tetrahedral formula that interrelates with that, and the energies of love and the higher vibrations are in alignment with this matrix, and an energy that is dissonant with that, like one of hate or whatever, cannot resonate with a matrix that does not support that structure. I mean, you could attempt to do that, and I've seen when people have misused crystals where they have, actually cracked and fractured, or something happens. So yeah, it's bad news for the black magicians.
Something I'm just thinking here, Dan, as you're talking, which I could just sit here and listen to you for hours talk about this. Isn't it fascinating that obviously we are, approximately 80% water, and how water responds to these energies and frequencies. And I think what's important to realize is, I think some people sort of start dabbling with crystals, hold on and go, well, what's it doing, And it's a participation and we get to work with them, and there's an intention, and there's a, it's almost a relationship.
Yeah.
And obviously each different crystal, I mean, obviously there are tons and tons of crystals out there, different kinds that carry different vibrations. But it's interesting that the quartz that you're talking about, the clear quartz, is so close to water on a molecular level. Is that what you said?
Yes. In fact, Marcel was able to do experiments with, with the spectrophotometer that I was able to acquire. You can
imprint
into the water with a pulseless breath, and you could see new bands in the 3,000 to 4,000 angstrom area, and then you can pulse your breath with the intention, to clear, and it clears, and it's so you can measure it, in physical, and you could take one of these. People don't use these anymore. This is a magnetic bulk eraser that used to be used for when they had VHS tapes and things like that, and you'd want to reuse a tape, you'd clean it off. Well, it worked really well for clearing a crystal,
really?
according to the measurements that they did. So there's so many thoughts that branch off on all this.
I know. I mean, there's a million and one questions we could, or ways we could go here. But another thought, because I love nature, and being out in nature is my thing. And obviously, crystals are nature; they are natural. But isn't it interesting that when you talked about the spiral, and that's how energy flows through our spine, as well? It's like everything's divinely organized, and there's this synchronicity between everything. And when we're working with these energy generators, basically, I mean, when we truly understand it, which people like yourself are really getting to understand and teach it, I think we should be teaching this at schools. We should be telling our kids about how to work with them, and taking it a bit out there a little bit. We hear of these sort of ET technologies that are just lined with different crystals.
Oh, yeah, all over the place. With the secret space programs, there's crystals everywhere in the med beds. They use the crystals.
Even the crafts that they fly are powered with crystals.
Well, and that's where they got like the cell phone, the microwave, and all this
Mhm.
stuff was reverse engineered from ET Tech, obviously the ships and what have you. And, I was just on a panel like a few days ago with some more church people and was trying to give them an education, or was choosing to give them some education on it. And went to a store here locally, and the owner of the store is a friend of mine. It's a crystal shop, and she had someone just come in right before I was in there saying that they had done their testing on whatever crystals and said that there was no frequency that came from it, and that there was no healing properties, there was nothing that it would do. It was just like a rock that had nothing. And I was like, well, I don't know what tools they were using to test, but I can say otherwise. So it's just like there is a lot of education that can be an opportunity for. And I believe a lot more people are open in this day and age than maybe in the 70s. Like, or maybe, I don't know, maybe it was just my peer groups. I don't know. But it seems like it's more trendy even. I mean, you can go to like Target or freaking Best Buy and there's crystals there. They're fake, not real.
Yeah.
But it's like everyone's kind of like jumping on the crystal bandwagon now. And like there's so many tricksters out there, just like essential oils and the EMFs. And it's like, oh, we can make money out of this. So let me just like create some piece of plastic and charge $100 for it and get it out the door. And then somebody gets home and it's like something made in China that's definitely not going to support their health in any way. So anyway,
it sounds like the crystal mine owners. When I had to go get all the crystals for the lab, I had to sit down and drink some moonshine with the with the owners. You get friendly with them. They get some good deals, and they would say, "Yeah, we don't feel anything. Only when they cut us, the crystals, they only get that." But there was an interesting blind fellow that was there at the mine, and he would say, there was these barrels that they had the crystals in, and he says, there's a crystal about halfway down this one, I want it, this one. He could sense and feel the the energy of that particular crystal. The crystals are a key to understanding the matrix that we are in. The entire atomic table of elements, of every element there is in the universe, is based on a tetrahedral geometry. And so essentially the entire universe is made up of these little tetrahedral building blocks, you could say. And it's the lattice structure that's within the crystal that is basically like a six-pointed star. We have one triangle that is positive, negative, male, female, whatever, and then you have the opposite polarity triangle creating.
As opposed to
Pythagoras used to have a six-pointed star with a dot in the middle, and he called that the star of creation. And in the ancient occult writings of the stanzas of Dizion, it talked about the matrix of being a hexagonal matrix with a six-sided honeycomb-like structure, with the seventh point in the center being spirit, where the eminent. And it's interesting that the piezoelectric effect of a crystal, when you squeeze a crystal, and it doesn't take much pressure at all. You can with the crystal. One of the first things Marcel would do is, you build up the energy in your body by bringing in the prana, by doing some deep breathing. It builds up the energetic field, and when you hold the crystal, you kind of put a little pressure on it and rub it like that, and rotate it and rub it, and you become one with the crystal. And when I say that, it's like with the piezoelectric effect, what you're having, you have multi-trillions of these 6-pointed star configurations that have their charge centers of the positive, negative, male, female, whatever you want to call it, into the exact center. And when you put a little bit of pressure on it, what happens is it offsets these triads just a little bit so that the charge centers are displaced and no longer zeroed out and neutralized. And so it's like it's like the eye of the hurricane. It's like where the vortex is. It's where that is the the black hole, I guess you could say, in the middle of the crystal that opens up this gate, I guess you could say. I'm just paraphrasing. Yes.
Well, since you brought that up, I have, and this, I mean, this is, I'm not going to explain everything, but I'll just say that there was like, take that one that you have, but shorter. It's like this big, and it was like a pyramid that was some kind of technology that I've been shown that can collapse, like it's crystal, but it would turn. So it's this way, and then it could turn and go upside down that way, just by flipping out of itself and then back under. I wish I could like show you, but kind of like this, and then it would go open and then turn and then be like an upside down pyramid. And it was actually used for teleporting or transportation. And I know that there's like, obviously it's used in transportation with ships, but this was for like people, kind of like Star Trek, to be able to beam in and out with this technology. And then also I know Lemurians crystals can be recordings and or have information in it. And after I had my encounter, I had this information download to get a Lemurian, and I got the Lemurian and I put it on my lap. And between the encounter and this Lemurian, that's how my book came out in 12 hours. The one you were saying Rebecca was reading. This information just literally came through me between those two things. But any idea, any insight on this?
What you're talking about is a key to the universe.
God, I'm shaking.
That 0 point, that balance between the flip from one to the other.
Oh my God.
That center point connects to all through time and space and all dimensions. And it's within the crystal structure. The piezoelectric effect is where you can create quite a bit of voltage. If you hit this really hard, you can get big sparks coming off of it. That's how the piezoelectric, cigarette lighters and everything, they hit with a little hammer on the crystal, and it offsets enough, and you get a big spark coming off of it. But with the use and healing in the crystals, what you do is you kind of open up that little dimensional portal. It's like the vortexing, as you know. I discovered many years later that the entire universe, all spherical bodies, all our planets, the sun, everything have that star tetrahedron within it. That's where the sunspots are. That's where the Great Pyramid is on Earth, the red spot on Jupiter, the Cydonia complex on Mars. All throughout the whole system. Each spherical planetary body has these geometries, and as the Russians discovered, there's also an isosahedron and dodecahedron grid, and these are where the Great Pyramid is, and the Bermuda Triangle, and the Devil's Sea in Japan, and and where these geometries intersect and the nodal points connect, the energy spirals and vortexes.
Wow.
Just like when we find a nodal spot on the Earth's surface, it's like an acupuncture point on the body, where you can connect into the entire planetary matrix, because our bodies are borrowing these bodies from the Earth. It's resonant with this planet. these crystals that have grown in the earth also have a resonance with this planet. And I'm getting some new and very interesting information from some very unusual sources that are corroborating across the board with everything that Dr. Vogel discovered in the laboratory. My friend Elena Denan, I asked, I wanted to see if I could get some more information from her contact, Thorhan. Her younger brother, Jenhan, is actually going to a university in the Pleiades, and he terraforms planets. That's what he does. And so he obviously has an advanced knowledge of the sciences of crystals and things, and everything that I put forth a whole lot of questions, and everything that he answered not only completely corroborated with everything that we measured in the laboratory and have experience with, but also expanded upon it and showed that the crystals that grow on Mars, they can, and the people who are the natives of Mars, they can use it on their planet. But you can't use a crystal that's grown on Mars and connect into the matrix on this planet, because this planetary matrix. So these crystals that we have here on Earth connect into the planetary matrix, and therefore they connect to every single living being. And as science has shown in many experiments where there's this morphogenic field that we're all connected to, where they found that the square root of 1%, which is if you have 8 billion people on the planet, that comes out to a little less than 9,000 people. And I know you have at least that many YouTube viewers. So if we all of us put an intention into the crystal, it has an incredible amplifying effect. What I found is that the sciences of the crystal are similar to those that we know in normal physics. Myself, being a broadcast engineer, very familiar with electromagnetic broadcasts and how antennas work. If you ever seen a picture of the HARP array up in Alaska, we have all these antennas repeated, the same antenna. And this is used throughout broadcasting. It's called a phased array, where you have a single antenna and you put another one at the exact precise wavelength distance from it. You get like a 3 decibel gain, and you add another one, you get a more of a gain. You multiply this many times, you get a huge amount of amplification. Well, you have the same thing within a crystal lattice structure. You have a tetrahedral lattice structure that both Jenhan and Marcel both exactly said the same thing, and that is the energies of mind as we think are geometric in pattern. And these geometric patterns resonate within this crystal lattice structure, and with an intent that is with the energy of love, with a loving intention, like to do something good, like see a positive timeline on our planet, see all the injustices, people brought to justice, and the planet, and brought to a happy state, rather than all the conflict and suffering that's been going on. If that could be pulsed with intention into a crystal, it's amplified. And with healing, some of the basic procedures I'll share with what Marcel shared with me on crystal healing, which you could use on yourself or someone else. Now, keep in mind, a vocal cut has the ability to cohere the energies like a laser. And so there's an amplification factor that happens with the vocal cut crystal. Now you can use a regular natural cut crystal, and cultures all over the world have used Indians and India and Druids and you name it. Widely diverse cultures have all this clear rock. Why do they all attribute these similar attributes to this clear stone? I mean, what's the big deal? So people have intuitively sensed that there's some kind of spiritual attributes to these clear stones called quartz crystals. So, this is much more complex than what I'm going to describe, but I'm going to just share fundamental basics. And we're all, when you understand the basics, you can basically write your own script, because we're all creative. And use your own intuition, but it's important to understand some fundamental basics. So when you're working with somebody, and of course, disclaimer, ask your doctor if crystal healing is right for you. Don't want the FDA to come after us.
I don't know what to say.
All right. So the first thing is to build up your energy with the prana, and you can do pranic breath, which is inhale, and you hold this for a few seconds, and you exhale, and on the hold you hold for a few seconds, and then inhale, and whatever, just do it so it's comfortable for you, and just build up. The breath is connected with a multidimensional information transfer. When you inhale and exhale, it's not just breathing in oxygen for your blood. It's not just prana. It's also information that's being brought into your body and transmitted out. And this is how the information, with a very almost like a martial art, like through the nostrils, like that, like you're into the crystal. It's very, very precise. It's like a spike, with intention of clarity. So
sorry, can I just ask, does that breath that come out have to physically hit the crystal, or just have it?
No. It's not. Okay. It's not a physical. It's with the breath. There's an energy that's transmitted from and geometric. But before you do anything, make sure the crystal's erased of any previous program. That's very, very essential.
Definitely.
And you do that with holding the crystal. Not everybody has a Vogel crystal, so I try to be universal. I mean, it doesn't have to be. It could be a little crystal, and with the intent, hold it like this and like this, with the intent of clearing the crystal, like that, and then rotate it to other facets and go until you have cleared it. And then what you want to do is you want to excite the crystal into oscillation with your basically your DNA frequency. Your soul frequency is embedded with the crystal and resonates with it. And as you rub and rotate the crystal, you'll actually start to feel a sticky feeling that happens, and that's due to an electrostatic charge that's built up from the very, very slight pressure that's offsetting these trillions of and kind of opening up that little dimensional gate, you could say, in the middle of the six-pointed star, and building a charge. And you can feel there's a resonance that's happening. Okay, once you build up a charge, if you're working with somebody, for example, what Marcel found is that working right here in the thymus area is like a connection to the entire body. You go now. Here's something that's really interesting, because everything I've studied radionics quite a bit and built a number of different instruments and worked with them. And you could say within a circle, you have all the vibrations of the entire universe, and and so when you're tuning into somebody, you start out, you go out counterclockwise, and then as you go in, you start to rotate like a radio dial until you find, and you use your other hand, the receiving hand, like behind the person, and you go into the thymus area. And as you start to rotate in, and the more you do this, the more you develop a sensitivity, and it's like no effort whatsoever. It's just like you can feel it right when you're in resonance with the person. And you can do it with your hand. You can take a crystal and start to rotate it. Now this happens more profound with a vocal cut.
Mm-hmm.
But it'll like stop. You'll feel a resistance, and you'll be in resonance with, and that's important, because what you're going to be doing is you're basically becoming at one with the person, and you also have the person breathing with you. You do some deep breathing, and you breathe together in sync. And so you're basically being an extension of that person, helping to facilitate that person heal themselves. And as they say, ask and you shall receive. You have the person, they have some problem, some pain, something's going on in their body that doesn't feel right. You ask them to go in to their mind's eye and go into that place. And as you go in, you help amplify, and that amplification of energy will actually amplify the pain a little bit, which will help for the identification of where you want to go into, where the root cause is. Where is the asking your within to be shown, where is the source? Where is the root source of this? And don't judge the information, how it comes. Just take it at face value. It can come as an emotion, a pattern, or whatever, and just be able to identify it. Once you have done that, you build up the energy with the person, you're breathing, and you're working. This is kind of like an etheric scalpel. And so you're tuned into the etheric body of the individual. And so when you build up to a point where there's a release breath, where they take a deep breath in at the height of where they're holding their breath, and they're locking their mind onto the core of that. And then there's like this profound, okay, and then release like that. And you pull it out, but immediately after pulling it out, you bring back love into the area, which it integrates the energy back in, and you want to balance that person, because a lot of times they'll sometimes have an emotional release, or something will be associated with it. And sometimes it gets more complicated. Sometimes the pain will move to another place in the area, and you have to go hunt it down over there and then do the whole procedure again. But I've seen some amazing physical manifestations happen, and a lot of times people say, the pain's gone. It's like a miracle. But these are this looks like a voodoo witch doctor stuff, but it's sciences that are in the future. And what I was involved with Dr. Marcel was kind of pioneering work in the beginning days of quantifying this into a science that's accepted. And although he had a lot of rejection from mainstream scientists, because he was touching into areas that are forbidden zone, and he get into having to do with love and crystals and plants and everything. But in the future, we'll see the science develop so that Stanford Research Institute did an experiment where they put inside of a crystal the image of the Mona Lisa. You can holographically project an image in, and they found that they could read it much faster than any computer system we had at that time. That was many years ago. And I believe in the future, and I believe that the med beds, when they capture your frequency, your holographic frequency, we're each holograms, complex holograms that not only have this 3D component, but it goes temporal as well, where it goes back through the moment of your conception. And as Alex Collier was saying, that the Andromedas, way of proving a lot of the stuff that we get from these other sources, but it's very curious that it matches because one of the projects I worked on with Marcel was a camera that could holographically project a pattern into space. It was built in the 1950s in the European Patent Office, and thousands of photos were made. And it could, within this hologram that was projected in space, we could only capture a slice of it, which is a 2D in a photograph. We can move within the hologram backwards and forwards in the time. So it was substantiating what Alex Collier was saying. And so what they're able to do is go through these slides through time and take it when your body everything was optimal, and make a new hologram and overlay it, because the universe has a tendency to move toward perfection. And through sound and light and these holographic projections, they're able to age regress, to be able to take an arm or leg that's been chopped off and regenerate it within a matter of hours. And so this is the technology, and I believe that they use crystals in order to store these holographic patterns. And it's interesting that Marcel was the creator of the magnetic coatings on hard drives, and everything that he dealt with had to do with IBM was the storing of information. And so how perfect that he got into the science of crystals, which will be the storage medium in the future for the storing of information.
It's funny you should say that, because when I was like preparing for the show and what have you, I remembered about have you heard of the crystal skulls?
Oh yeah, Marcel worked with a Michael Hedges skull.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, I have a story about that if you want to hear it.
Tell me, yes.
Please.
He worked with the Michael Hedges skull, and what he got was that the old adept who had all the wisdom, and he's reaching the end of his life, the information was transferred from his mind into the crystal. And then the young initiate that was coming in was then transferred from the crystal skull into her mind. And that's what he saw in a vision, how it was. And it makes sense because the
science,
the skull, we have these these craniums that are resonant. Marcel always used to say that there is like this oscillation that's going on inside. And when you think about reality, when you see a fluorescent light, it looks like it's on, but it's actually turning off and on 60 times a second, or 50 times a second in the UK. But the eye can only discern 30 times a second. And so it appears to be solid and on. And reality is somewhat like that, in that when you go to a higher frequency vibrational level, you can see in between these pulses of creation. And I actually had a in 1977 was a weird year. I haven't had anything like that since that. But I was on board a craft, and these beings put me through this, the whole bunch of little guys, and the big guy came up and on a control panel and put me through this spinning sensation that was so intense. I said, I can't handle this anymore. It was like, I turned this over to my higher self, and then I went through this dimensional portal into this new reality, and I was on top of this mountain, and it was beautiful. I mean, it was like this euphoric that I can't even describe into words. It was like a beautiful spring day on top of this mountain. There was this gorgeous flute music playing in the background, and it was just this euphoric feeling. And as I observed, the reality started to pulsate, flicker. And it's like one of these teaching things they were doing. It was a weird year. I had like UFOs were flying over and things going on. It has to do with this old elderly lady that I connected with that was having contact from space beings, that she wrote like a telephone book of everything in quatrains about the history of the Earth and the extraterrestrials. And after connecting with her, I had all these, I used to go with her out in the mountains and see them. Anyway, I went into what looked like an old-time movie theater, and as I'm looking, I could see my reality up on the movie screen, and of this beautiful thing, and it was like you could see it was like frames of a old movie theater, and I'm realizing that I'm projecting this experience. And I just kind of laughingly said, okay, what's the name of this movie? And it wrote in beautiful script, A Journey of a Mystic. And then I thought, oh my God, because I knew my body was back on my bed and I was fully conscious and I was still in this exalted state. I said, I bet I can go back in my body right now and maintain this and open my eyes. And I did. And it lasted for, maybe half an hour. And then I started thinking, I got to go back to work and pay bills, do all
no, back in the Matrix.
But yeah, in 1977 was a very odd year of extraterrestrial interaction. I haven't had anything like that happen for decades.
Well, I think we need to get that sort of stuff happening again, don't we? For all of us.
Well, if you have time, I have a couple more questions. What you're saying?
Oh, please, yeah, hit me with all your questions on the crystals. Yeah, I always learn something because I don't know everything. I've studied and researched. I know about the laboratory. I know what was measured. I have experiences with the crystals, and I've researched as much as I can, and I've got a pretty good. But I don't know everything. But when somebody asks a deep question, it makes it probe, and I say, this connects with this, and I get a new understanding. So please ask some in-depth questions.
I have like 3 or 4 still, and I have a comment too. Like, I have a biomat, and then I use biofeedback, which is also crystals. And someone had mentioned Kim's on here, and she said something like, I heard that they're going to be in the phones. They've been in the phones for years, and pretty much every piece of equipment because of that piezo effect, the piezoelectric effect. But what is your take on 2 things? Herkimer, which happened to be one of the cards that you picked first when I sent you back. I know I can feel them, like when I hold one, and it just with that, I don't know what it is, but do you have anything on that? And then anything about the flower of life? I'm curious if you have.
God, those 2 great questions. And there's a whole lot on both of them.
Because that's part of the book, part of my encounter too. That's what's behind there. I don't know if you can
such a great book. My wife is so inspired by reading your book. And she's getting so much information out of it.
Me, actually. So say hello to Rebecca for me.
Yes, same. Yes. And I'm glad that she's enjoying this. Again, I can't take credit except for putting it together and actually just literally writing it out. But it's literally a miracle book. But yes.
Now, to answer your questions, Herkimer, quartz is diamond is like a hardness of 10, yeah, I believe, and quartz is like a hardness of 7, and I believe Herkimer diamond's like, don't quote me exactly, I believe, but it's higher. It's like a 9 on the scale, and
on the scale of what?
Yeah, it's like it's 7.5. I have to look it up. It's been a long time, but I know it's a higher hardness than regular quartz, and it double terminates, which is special. And this double termination has a special quality to it. And regarding the flower of life, what is the flower of life? Now, interestingly, after I testified in Washington, we tried to bring forth these scientists within the Black Projects to prove we had these technologies, but the Bush administration denied it. So we started meeting with scientists and inventors. Dr. Greer in San Francisco, in a private home, we met with a whole bunch of different scientists. Mark Cummings was one physicist. He had a crystal that he was able to excite and glowed and levitated. It's producing a huge amount of power, and the SWAT team came in and cleaned out his laboratory, and he's since has disappeared. There was a number of scientists that had similar horror stories, and one of the scientists was a Swiss theoretical physicist, Nassim Haramein, and I was sitting with him, and he was showing me on his laptop this energy device that was using geometry in order to power this light bulb. And because of the geometry, I felt moved to share my unusual experience I had with the ET and geometry and everything. And he says, "Yes, that's it. That's the structure of the matrix." And I've been following his work since then. He's on the 64-star tetrahedron grid, and it completely matches everything that I've researched. And if you take it's made up of tetrahedrons, 64 of them, to be exact, which is a magical number. If you're looking at all the rest of, half of 64 is 32, and, and so forth and so on. And if you take the 64 tetrahedron grid and you take all the little tetrahedrons and put little bubbles around them, little circles, and you project that onto a flat surface, you have the flower of life. So the flower of life is representative of the matrix that the quartz and the water works within. And so, throughout the universe, quartz is like a pure substance that the lattice structure is based on the fundamentals of this matrix that we are in. And it's a key to understanding the matrix.
Okay.
More questions?
Yes. So I was also asking because I've seen some of the Vogels in different colors. Obviously, the quartz has that higher frequency electrical component to it, but I've seen smoky quartz. I've seen pink quartz. Does it matter if it's white or smoky or pink or
clear?
Yeah. Is there anything about color that makes it different?
Well, smoky quartz is it's dark because it has radiation damage. There's and it's useful for extracting energies. In fact, I in a lecture in Germany, Marcel was working with a friend of mine who they were actually using it for radiation things, but I don't have a whole lot of information on that. All I can say is that when you want to avoid, if you want to work universally, you want to work with just a clear quartz crystal. And it doesn't have to be perfectly clear. It can have some inclusions and things in it. Some people are, different. And as far as size goes, have a little crystal. Keep in mind, there's the matrix within a crystal is so vast. It's like it fractally goes into infinity.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you're working with a larger crystal. If you're working with something that is cut into a particular shape, it's nice for ornamental or other purposes, but it's better to work with something that has the natural alignment with the lattice structure, because it's this vortexing that, and you can tell that the crystal, the energy spirals, because the crystals grow in a left or right-handed spiral as they grow up. You can tell by the facets which way they go. And if you're working on yourself with a crystal, you can do that as well, just like with the healing. You do the same procedure, only you tune into yourself, and you go into that area of your body, and you do the same process, and with the breath, connect it with that, release it. And so the crystal can amplify and connect. See, the crystal is physical on multiple dimensions. And that's a really important thought. They're finding that these space arcs that are finding all over our solar system, they're crystalline on the inside. It means that they're physically manifested into multiple dimensions at the same time. They're a multi-dimensional bridge. They bridge the dimensions. And so through this dimensional bridging is how you can connect to, because the body stores patterns, as you know. And say if you get impacted, say you fall on your shoulder, there's a impact there, and the body has certain piezoelectric qualities to it, like the bone and things, that pattern will keep replaying until acted upon, where you erase that pattern, and always with love, coming back. Love is the integrating force of the universe. Marcel used to say, when I love you, I empower you to be whole, because it's the integrative energy. That's the fundamental holographic matrix of the universe. That's why it works most effectively.
Wow. Does it matter if it's double terminated or just single? Like I saw you were holding up one that just had one side.
Oh, this one actually, this little crystal actually, on a lapidary machine, I cut the other side off so I won't, it's easy to hold. But as far as being effective, the most effective is like a Vogel cut crystal, where you have one side of the Vogel cut crystal is cut at a 52-degree angle. This 52-degree angle is like a transponder in the matrix. It's like the universal resonance it's like the female end of the crystal, where the other side is the projecting male end, which has a slightly more acute angle. And so the energy, it spirals through the crystal, and it reflects back and forth like a laser, and it builds the energy. And that's why it is laser-like in cohering the energies of mind.
Interesting. Okay. Well, Craig, do you have any questions too? I think that's my, unless something else pops up. I think
I know we're missing a lot.
This was, sorry.
There's always more.
I know. I mean, obviously, I'm mind blown with the information. I mean, I didn't quite know where it was going to go. I knew we were going to talk about sort of the science of it, but I mean, I'm just sat here thinking, sort of, how, the troubling times that we're going through. We're dealing with the power structures that have kept this information away from us, that have kept us dumbed down. And it's really interesting that we're having this conversation, because I think whilst there's the simultaneous destruction of the old world, this new world is rising up as well. And this kind of conversation is igniting people and doing something in our DNA and awakening something in us. Like there is these technologies available, and it's in the ground, it's in the earth, it's all over the cosmos. That it's right under our noses, and we've just not known because we've been lied to so much. And I think there's going to be a massive influx of this divine information and amazing souls like yourself, Dan, who's done the work, the research. So someone like me can come along and just sit here with my mouth open for an hour going, this is amazing, you know. So I just want to say thank you so much for doing that, and for all the years of being faithful to this. And you know, obviously, you know, the younger generation are coming up, and they're hungry for this new information, and it's not going to come from the media and the governments. It's going to come from conversations like this. So we need to get this information out and wake people, and to ignite other people to explore and to experiment and discover for ourselves what is available to us. You know, it doesn't even cost that much. It's not a lot of money or anything. You don't need a big backing to do this, you know. So yeah, I guess that would be my final piece on that.
Well, go ahead, Dan.
Oh, I am 100% with you, Craig. I want to empower people. You know, what I worked with Marcel, this is primitive. This is like beginning pioneering days of a science that's in the future, that's going to be expanded dramatically. We're going to understand the structure of the matrix. We're going to be able to exchange with off-planet cultures that are thousands or millions of years in advance to understand this far more than we do. But you know, before we end the show, you know, we could, you know, I like to, you know, people looking at the world and feeling like, you know, what can you do? You know, even if you go out there and picket and you do, you know, rallies and stuff like that, they control the media. So there's a whole lot of people that are still thinking the media is their friend, you know. So the science is that the planetary matrix that is connected to the crystal and our bodies, we can affect it. And we can do a little exercise, since this is live. You know, everybody that has a crystal out there, you know, they can grab it, and we can go along and do a little crystal exercise to put it into the planetary matrix that will seed the direction of the timeline on the planet to a more positive timeline. So we could do that before we close the show.
That's what I was going to bring up. Is we know that the crystal technology is used in Looking Glass for changing timelines, and that's what there's been this timeline war. So the exercise would be perfect for us to just create the most beautiful timeline ever. Yes. And also even the Merkaba, you know, it's mentioned in the Bible in Ezekiel, and it's literally a craft. It's our craft. It's our hologram craft that that can function based on our signature DNA. Like, so no one could drive mine or yours or whatever, but we all have our individual seat, I guess you could say, of you know, for traveling. And they did that, and they're still doing that. But yeah, so speak into Looking Glass a little bit. I have lots of information on that, but I'd love to know what your information is, and then let's go into an exercise. I would love that. I wish I had something here to do it with. That would work well.
I've got tourmaline and shungite next to me.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if that...
Well, yeah, certain military intelligence groups have access to that technology. You know, looking forward to see the past, and yeah.
Do you have any information on like any of the technology with Looking Glass? I mean, I have.
I 1993, I met with Bob Lazar with a bunch of researchers outside Area 51, and he talked about Operation Looking Glass out there at S4, but he wasn't privy to it's very highly compartmentalized, and I believe he was fed this information. He said they can look a couple of milliseconds into the future past that. I haven't any direct information, but when you look at the things like the chronovisor, that the Catholic Church did, you look at the Delaware camera that could tune backwards and forwards in the time. Delaware was actually able to take a picture of his wedding day that went back in time. We know the technology exists, and you can imagine with billions, trillions of dollars, advanced, incredible scientists developing things that they probably developed it pretty well.
Didn't someone in the Catholic Church somehow have this technology, and they actually went back and witnessed the crucifixion of Christ?
Right. The chronovisor,
yeah. I heard that recently. Actually, I think Brad Olson just did a video on it. I don't know if you know Brad.
My friend Augie Noss did a show on that.
That's right. Yeah, Augie. I know we've had Augie, haven't we?
Yes, we love Augie.
Nori, yeah.
he's awesome. Yeah, he's great. Shall we do a little spike into the matrix and see if we can
let's manifest a positive timeline, the best possible timeline.
The secret societies, they are all tied into Hollywood and the programming that goes on, and they know very well about the hive mind and how the thoughts that go out there in Hollywood and the movies with all the violence and everything like that. They want to keep everyone in somewhat of a fear state, disconnected from your higher aspect. So what we're going to do, they absolutely hate. So
Makes me we should do it even more.
Because we're going to use loving energy, and we're going to see the most benevolent, wonderful, beautiful timeline we know can exist. And as you and I know that this is not a fantasy, that there is advanced technologies that have been withheld from humanity for many decades, and that there doesn't need to be all the suffering on this planet. The planet could be cleaned up. You don't have to do the depopulation thing. There's we can make everything for everybody that could be living in a much, much higher state than currently, that they're using through the control of our information systems, and secrecy and deception is their power. Our power is disclosure and love.
Yes. Truth.
And the power of our creative thought.
Yeah.
So, okay. This is a real simple, nothing complicated. The first thing you want to do is let's build up our energy a little bit, do some deep breathing.
Okay.
Let's do it so it's comfortable. Just breathe in that pranic energy, build in the electrical charge in your body. Okay. Grab your favorite crystal that, if you have one. If you don't have a crystal, get a little glass of water or your water carrier or something, because water has this universal resonance into it as well. And afterward, you can drink the water. And work with what you have. So I'm going to grab my favorite crystal. And what you want to do is first clear your crystal of all previous patterns. Take a deep breath. Take a deep breath, and with the intention of clearing it through your nostrils, do like a sharp pulse breath. Like that. Rotate it to another facet. Okay, now the crystal is clear. Now start to resonate with it. Rub it and become one with it. Feel it oscillating your DNA frequency that's connected with your soul, so that you and the crystal are merged together as one. And the crystal is connected with you, and the crystal and you are both connected into the planetary matrix that we are in, which is connected to every single living being on this planet. And science has shown that there is definitely a connection, and that what we're about to do is going to have an effect, and know that your power of creative thought will have an effect. So I'd like for you to imagine in your mind's eye the most benevolent timeline that you could imagine you could be living here on planet Earth, so that there is much joy, much happiness, peace, feeling of safety, security, evolution, that all dark elements have been accounted for, brought to justice, and have been alleviated to not affect our planet any further. And so that we take back control of our planet, bring it into the beautiful heavenly paradise that it was originally intended to be. And so to put whatever that image is in your mind, I want you to project that into the crystal through your breath. And so take a deep breath in, lock onto that image, and project it into the crystal with your mind's eye. Wow.
I'm emotional. I got emotional.
Yeah, and now give thanks and gratitude and know it is so.
Dude, I actually did feel that sticky part. Like that's the first.
Yeah. The electrostatic charge is from all those charge triads. It's building up the charge within the crystal.
And
amazing.
I'd love to know, did anyone feel emotional in that? I know I almost started. I did tear up, but I could have.
You never.
I could have went even more. I mean, like anyone? I'd love to know. Someone says freedom. Me too. Okay. Did you guys? Do you ever? I know
that felt powerful. I don't know how many people joined us, but
that was yeah.
We affected all 8 billion people on this planet. I know that I remember meeting with Uri Geller, and he did this thing on television and people were bending spoons on the other side of the television.
Wow.
So there's something be said with the collective mind of all of us with an intention of love, for the most benevolent outcome for all beings. With that, it transcends to the higher dimensional levels, which precipitates into the complete planetary matrix that we're in, affecting all living beings. And, this is how, since they control our information systems, this is kind of like attacking it, I guess, if you could call it attacking, from within.
Yeah. I think that's what we've been planted on, behind enemy lines on this planet, surely. And we're
yeah, exactly.
We're going for it.
Yeah, lots of people commenting, body tingles. Does anyone feel like shaky? I kind of feel like a little, not dizzy, but shaky. Some people are saying tingling. Teared up. Greg said that he felt like that sticky part. Yeah, do you ever feel like a little shaky about it almost? Like, I don't know if it's too like over energy or.
I'm feeling electricity through my whole body. I'm feeling energy. I felt energized from that, because you're doing your higher soul's purpose, because our purpose is to love.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Lots of people saying, talk to my body tingling, more light, nice imaging. Lots of people joined us. Yay. I'm so happy.
Awesome. And if you didn't have a crystal, you had a glass of water, drink that water and feel it go throughout your own little, we're like each fractals of this larger planetary matrix of which we're all connected to.
Awesome. Well,
this has been one of my favorites ever.
Yeah, this is definitely appreciate you so much. And where can people find you? Please give us your website and any information. I know you have a YouTube channel as well with really good education there as well.
Oh, I have my YouTube channel. I have a couple of Marcel Vogel videos. If you go to, it's just my notes I put online. It's not like a fancy professional site or anything like that. It's marcelvogel.org. Marcel Vogel, VOGEL.org. It's just a site I put up in his, from his friendship and memory. I put that in his honor. To also, I wanted to do a brain dump of the years that I worked with him and I hung out with him and did stuff with him. I wanted to, do a brain dump and put it onto a website. And there's some links at the very bottom of some other great sources on Marcel. My other site is the webmatrix.net, which has to do with the the military, the disclosure, extraterrestrial aspect of it all. But I have never ever associated anything financially with either of these subjects, disclosure or the crystal sciences. It's just something that I feel needs to be shared and expanded upon.
I agree, and so is everybody else here. That's for sure.
Some amazing comments coming through there. Yeah.
Well, Craig, give your website out one more time for people who are overseas, and then I could give some information for some people here locally that might be interested in.
Yeah. What I'll try and do is get this shared on the Facebook page and on the site as well, this show, crystalfalls.co.uk. I found out actually Crystal Falls is a place in America. We didn't even know that. That was something that my wife got when we were setting this up. But yeah, go and check us out. We've got loads of different crystals on there and bundles and incense, you name it, it's on there. But yeah, go, feel free to go check us out. Thank you.
Yes, awesome.
I'm going to my friend Elena Danan, who's given me graciously information from the Palladian, from the planet Era.
We got a lady on the show.
Yeah. I'm going to be doing a show with her, and we're going to expand. I didn't share very much, just a highlight of some of the information, but we're going to go into depth of showing the correlation of the research work that Marcel did in the lab with what this Palladian being is sharing from his advanced knowledge of crystals. So I'm looking forward. We're going to work on that for a week or so. It's going to be quite extensive. So, it's going to keep evolving, and we'll be sharing more with that, and hope to do another show with you on
I was
taking that knowledge to the next level.
Yeah, after you guys get all that worked out and you get more information, we'll do a part 3 for sure. And really, I'm all about diving in. So I would love to have you back on whenever you get some more.
Love to be back with you guys, and we'll take it to the next level.
There's another level.
Yeah, and you guys go to swiftfire.org, because I do have my cards available there, and you don't have to clear the cards, and you don't have to carry 80 pounds of crystals in your suitcase when you're traveling or wherever you're going. And I don't know if it'll do exactly. I mean, obviously it doesn't have the Apizio effect, but I will tell you, we would test people with the actual crystal, because these are all my personal crystals. And we would test people's field with the actual crystal. We would take it away, and when they were holding it, they were stronger and had a different chemicals that were released, different brain activity that was within the body when they were holding the crystal. And then when it was taken away, they went weak. And then we would give them the card, just the card of the same crystal, and they would hold that in the field, and it actually brought them back up to where they were holding the actual crystal. So there's something to that, and I don't know how that works, but
geometry, it's resonance.
Yeah.
We're a geometrical field ourselves. We have nodal points in our geometric crystalline structure around our physical body. And when you have different elements, rubies, emeralds, or different crystals have the specific geometries, and they're in like this antenna phase array, like I talked about before, that amplifies this geometry. And so this resonance happens within your energetic field that interacts with the crystal or gem that you're working with and affects your energetic field.
Wow. Well, I mean, I know words affect the field, and had a whole technology, scientific kind of experiment with that. And so we actually put words on the back with a specific decree that would correlate with the crystal vibration. So they work together, as well as the essential oils that are best companion for that crystal, for the physical, emotional, and the mental body, and the spiritual body too. So we, what I like about the cards is you can stick this underneath a pillow, or put it in someone's backpack, or under your mattress, or bring it to your car. I have crystals everywhere anyway, in my car, and plants, and the dog bed, and all the places. It's interesting. My animals.
And put them in your plants,
Yes, I
put
do.
them in your plants, put your DNA into for the plant to nourish you with your particular DNA frequency, and put the crystals into the plants. And your book is absolutely fantastic. I highly recommend your book, which has the image of that person indoctrinated me into all this, and the words that you're saying on the back of your cards. Dr. Emoto used to take with the water, with just the word, and you could see the crystallization happen just by the energy of so it's an agreed upon reality. This matrix that we create, we're like we have between this left and right hemispheres, we have the pineal gland, which is this luminescent liquid crystal that's continually changing. That has this pineal shape that is like a multi-resonant antenna. And so there's a whole lot to understand about that. But we are creative beings, and we have incredible powers. And in fact, it was interesting that in 1957, there was this huge conspiracy to Professor Hans Eysenck at University of London. Hundreds of universities and things were taking out the powers of human consciousness to affect reality. And this is all part of the Nazi infiltration. They did control the population and everything. So they don't want us to know just how powerful that each of us truly are.
Yes. And what I liked about, because I would do a before and after of with the crystal, without the crystal, with the card, without the card. We also just did words. What I liked, or my goal was, using as many frequency anchors in one card as possible to really hold and anchor in those energies, so it could stay and really tune you up personally, like physically, emotionally, and mentally, instead of just using a decree, or just using a crystal, or just using a single oil, using all three things together to literally change the field. And we see it over and over again, where you could test it and it happens. And
energy follows thought. And Marcel used to say everything hinges around suggestion. So the power of thought is can't be underestimated.
Awesome. Well, so swiftfire.org is where you can get not only my book, which it goes into a lot of this information. Actually, we had a lot of information shared in two different experiences, but very similar information. And also the cards are there, and that's a good way too, where you can catch up. So when we do part 3, you guys, if you go in there and get the notifications, you're going to know the upcoming shows that are happening, which we have several every week at noon on Thursdays. And I would love for anyone who's not been with us before to definitely subscribe and make sure you get those notifications, so you're on board with next time Dan comes back. So swiftfire.org. And I'm so thankful for you, Dan and Craig.
And Rebecca, again, is so grateful for the information in your book that is really really inspiring to her.
Oh, well, she has just been such a delight and such an encouragement. And we kind of go back and forth with information here and there. And she's just such a light. So you guys are both just such a great couple. And I'm so inspired by both of your work and your gardens and the posts that she makes and, you know, all this information that you give out so freely. I just really am so happy and just glad to finally connect with you.
It's a good time to grow your own food too.
I believe so.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Some crystals in the veg patches.
We're doing the same thing. I'm not completely off the grid, but we are. My husband is very busy getting all kinds of stuff ready. We just picked a whole bunch of blackberries we have like 14 acres of just blackberries. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't know how this happened, but they're all there. And I'm like, and anyway, and all the other stuff too, but we're not as remote as you are. You are completely.
Oh, we love it. We've been living for over 2 decades, completely off the grid, and pretty self-sufficiently. You know, it's great being empowered to, you know, control. You have to fix everything yourself, but you know, you're not tied into anything you're dependent upon.
Yes. Well, thank you very much, guys. And we will be back next week, Thursday at noon. So definitely get on board. And this has definitely went way over an hour. And I'm not going to apologize because I could have gone longer. But for everyone else's sake, we're going to cut this short for today. And I'll look forward to connecting with you in the future. And thank you guys for watching and keep in touch. And we will see you next time.
Greatly enjoyed it with both of you, and hope we kicked in a new positive timeline with all the participants out there, and know it is so.
Yes. All right. Bless you guys. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.